Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Nintendo Fanboyz. Steven and I haven't done one of these in a while, and today we have something extremely relevant for all of you Dragon Quest fans out there. We're going to do we do this once in a while with a game that we both played, we both enjoyed. So it's basically going to be our spoiler cast, and I'm going to throw it to Steven to give us a much more better introduction, which is horrible English.
Yeah, so basically we did this for, I think we did this for Breath of the Wild, we did it for Arkham Knight, we even did it for Dragon Quest 8, I believe. So basically it's a spoiler cast, so we're going to do a full review discussion, we're going to talk about anything and everything relating to Dragon Quest 11S. So if you have not played the game or are planning to play the game and do not want any spoilers, this is not the podcast for you, as everything is on the table here. There's no restrictions. We're going to talk about everything, especially story related. And that includes the postgame, that includes everything. So just a warning there. It's going to be in the title, obviously, but if you don't want anything spoiled, be sure to come back here when you actually play the game, or if you don't mind spoilers, well, listen up, because we're going to cover everything relating Dragon Quest 11S and even compare it to the other versions. So that's your intro.
Glorious. Well, that's it. I hope you enjoyed, everyone. Okay, so since we're talking about Dragon Quest 11, I want to first start this off by saying that for those that do not know, there are now multiple versions of this game that are out there in the market. So I think the very first thing that we can do is just sort of differentiate all these different versions. So 2 years ago, I think it was 2 years ago now, Dragon Quest 11, just that, no fancy titles or whatever, was released in Japan on the PlayStation 4 and the 3DS. Last year, they released a PC and a PlayStation 4 enhanced version that featured, if I'm not mistaken, it featured voice acting. It had a couple of other quality of life improvements. Like, I know that they added like a one level speed up for the battles. There was a run mechanic that was added, although I don't think it was as fast as the next one, but whatever. Anyways, whatever. So those are two completely, different variations of the game. Then they released...
This was also the first North American version.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And then they released the version on Switch, which was a worldwide release. But even with the worldwide release, they're not the same. So the North American version, referred to as the Definitive Edition, and this is the same regardless of where you are in the planet. It includes a whole wide assortment of changes, which we'll talk to as we get into it, like the quality of life stuff and some of the new content that was added. But I just want to sort of differentiate between the Japanese and North American version. In Japan, there's additional content that was not released in North America. Some little things here and there, but the biggest is there's some voice stories. That's actually what they're called. They're like little continuations and backstories for each one of the characters. They have like what's called a voice drama series that was included in the game that's not available in our version. It's a non-playable, but it's sort of like it's almost like I don't know what you would call it, but it's like a little video, if you will, where like all the different characters will talk about some of their backstory and things like that. So that's kind of cool. And also the Japanese version, of course, would have the Scroll of Resurrection, which is not included in the North American version for obvious reasons. If you don't know what that is, it's basically a password system that allows you to go from the 3DS version to the console version. And so those are the different variations of the game. So there's a lot of crap out there. There's a lot of differences between each one. And I'd love to do a video one day, sort of doing what I did with the PlayStation 4 and the 3DS version. But that would take some time, because I'd actually have to go through the PC or PlayStation 4 version just to see exactly what is different. So I guess you want to start off by talking about what makes the Switch version so unique.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. You know these more than me because this is pretty much the only one I've played. So I'll just comment after.
Okay, so I'm probably going to forget a few things, and I'm probably going to make some mistakes along the way, guys. I did play the original Dragon Quest XI on the 3DS and the PlayStation 4, like I said, like 2 years ago now, so there is a chance that what I say could be a little bit off. One of the biggest quality of life, I guess I'd call it improvements, is the fact that you can use the Forge, which is called the Fun Size Forge, absolutely anywhere. I love that. I think that's absolutely awesome. And the fact that you can actually purchase items now, missing materials, right there. Like, you don't need to go anywhere. You don't need to hunt them down. This is a huge time saver. I don't think people understand just how much of a time saver some of these quality of life improvements are that I'm going to mention. But my playtime was 28 hours less on the Switch version, and the Switch version has more content, and it was 28 hours less than the other versions of the game. So it's significant. Like, it really is significant. You can skip cutscenes the very first time they're there, which is awesome, so you don't even need to watch them. Now, obviously, if it's the first time going through the game, watch the cutscenes. But for someone like me that had already experienced the story, there's no real reason for me to experience it all over again. So that's where a huge amount of time was saved. You don't realize just how many cutscenes there are, but there's a lot. There's a hell of a lot. The whole Yoshi game was completely changed. It's not a game anymore. There's just the Yoshi, or here what they're called is toggles, are just scattered around the world. So as you explore, you'll find them. It's almost impossible not to find them if you explore every nook and cranny of the game. And this is also really interesting. That's different. I know I said quality of life stuff, but I actually want to just talk in general about some of the changes made to the S version of the game. So we talked a little bit about last time how they sort of, I don't want to say rushed, but it feels like they just rushed through the 2D mode on the Switch, and I'm not entirely sure why they did that, considering it already existed on the 3DS. But instead of having all the different graphical styles of all the different games, like on the 3DS version, in this version, you're essentially left with like I want to say like a Dragon Quest VI engine Super Famicom game for every single one of them. So it doesn't matter if you go in Dragon Quest 1 or if you go in Dragon Quest 10, you're like in the retro areas, you're going to get the same graphical style. So that's a big difference, because that's not at all how it was like in the 3DS one. In the 3DS one, the graphics matched the game of the time period. So when you went into Dragon Quest 1, you were in an 8-bit game. When you went into like Dragon Quest 8, it was a 3D game, and so on. In fact, the entire town, the whole area, which what is it called here?
Tinkletown.
Tinkletown. Oh boy. Anyways, that whole town, that whole area is all 2D. And what's a little bit sort of weird with the way they did it is you have to save. So you have to go to like a little toggle who will save your game, and then you can teleport into the 2D mode and go there. And that's because they didn't render everything in 3D. On the 3DS version, you can actually go directly to the village just as you would any other zoom point. There is no saving in between. You just literally just boop, and you go right there. So that's really interesting. I don't know why they did some of that.
You also cannot save in Tinkleton. No,
yeah, that's right.
You can't save at all. The issue here, I think, and I'm not sure, this is my theory, is that maybe for them it was cheaper to create Tinkleton in 16-bit than it was to create it in the full style of graphics of Dragon Quest XI's, because in the 3DS version they couldn't have used that, because the 3DS Tinkleton, whatever it's called, the Yoshi Land, was in 3DS graphics, so they had to redo that village in either style. But I thought it was weird, because if they would have done that village in the Dragon Quest XI style, that's all they would have needed to do, because the rest of the missions, they could have kept them in their original look. I believe it should have worked. So I don't know if that's why they decided to do it that way, but like we mentioned in the last podcast we did together, I do believe that the 3DS version of the game, at least with these missions, is much better, because it's so much cooler to actually experience all these different games in their original looks. The way this is made, unless you're a Super Omega fan like Jarrod is, you probably won't even necessarily notice in what game you are unless you actually count them up, because it's like Dragon Quest 10, Dragon Quest 9, Dragon Quest 8 doesn't really make sense that they look that way. And I don't actually understand storyline wise why they did this, but
yeah, I don't know. I will say though, as a a big fan, that it was kind of cool to see like the castle in Dragon Quest 8 in 2D. Like that was kind of cool. But yeah, it was a weird decision. Let's put it that way. It was a weird decision. Something else kind of neat is that we finally, after all these years, it's been 7 if you can believe it or not, we have official English translations for Dragon Quest X content. And I thought that was kind of neat. I know this literally will only affect like less than 1% of the population that plays Dragon Quest games, because Dragon Quest X has never been released in North America. But it was cool. It was really cool to see that the Wetties are called Wetlings, the Pocaripos are called Poppets, like Itin, which is the starting town that you're in, is called Ten Town, which I thought was kind of funny, referencing Dragon Quest X. So, I mean, like I said, to like all of you guys, you're like, whoop-de-doo, like that's like, who cares? But for me, that's actually kind of interesting that they did that. So that was kind of neat. But yeah, it was weird. It was a weird decision to do like that graphical style. I'm not entirely sure why they did that, but whatever. The other the other change that was made is to the 2D mode itself. So if you know anything about the 3DS version, the 3DS version allowed you to swap back and forth to 2D to 3D mode at a moment's notice by just visiting a church or one of the campsites, and you would pick up directly where you left off. It literally, the screen would just like fade to black and you'd be good to go. Here, that's not the case at all. You actually have to revert the game to a previous point in time in terms of the storyline. So it's not really fully connected like 2D and 3D, which again, I'm not entirely sure why that was done, if there is like a technological reason for why that was done. But they also changed the 2D mode itself. So the 2D mode has redrawn sprites in some of the areas. The maps aren't the same. The overworld has been slightly tweaked. So like a lot of work went into this. I'm just kind of perplexed why they did some of the changes they did. Like, why would they go back and edit the overworld in the 2D mode? Like, I don't quite understand why they would do that. And in some cases, they actually made it smaller than the 3DS version. So again, I don't quite understand why they would do that just for the 2D mode. I know that in North America at least, and probably even in Japan, the 2D mode is more of a novelty than anything else. It's just more questions, right? Like, why would you go out of your way to do that is what I don't quite understand. Like, I don't get it. But it's still cool, very cool, that they added like new costumes. They added new boss characters for you to fight, which I want Steven to talk about. They even added a new trial to the Wheel of Harma, which was very cool. So why don't you talk about that? Because I haven't done that just yet. I just haven't had the chance to play. I'm so busy with school. But why don't you talk a little bit about some of that bonus content?
Okay, so like I said, the only game I've played before was the 3DS version of Dragon Quest XI. So for me, this is not bonus content because I have no idea what's really new or not. But I know that the new Secret Trial in the Wheel of Harma was a Switch exclusive, which is pretty challenging trial. It's probably the most challenging thing in the game besides the final boss you can battle. That's probably that one, because you need to defeat a series of enemies, but it's the only place, these trials, where you don't have your full party. You don't have full party access during a battle. You actually need to, in some occasions, only choose one character for the battle, and that's it. So that was very, very challenging for me, at least. The last two one, including the secret one, took me a while. The secret one, actually, you need to do it under 50 turns to get all the bonuses, and I managed to do it right on the 50 dot. So I was really, really pleased with that. It's really fun, because this is something I really enjoyed with this game, is that I actually used at some point in the second act, I was using all 8 characters, and that's something I never do in a JRPG, because I usually focus on 4. But what I really love they do in this game is that every character, no matter what game, gains the same amount of experience as the one in the that are battling. So you can always switch them up, and as long as you make some gear here and there for them, they are ready and available for battle. And it's fun, because also the game at various points breaks your party up into multiple scenarios. So by the end of the game, you will be familiar with all of them, and you will know their strengths and weaknesses. So that's something I really, really enjoyed. As far as the new bosses in this game, I'm not sure. I know there's the true final boss, which I don't think you've done yet, which we'll talk in a while. But there's also, I guess, some boss fights in the new side chapters they've added. Those are obviously new. But besides that, maybe you can help me with the new bosses, because I'm not sure what they are.
Okay, well, I know the main one is the gold. What was his name? What the hell is his name in English? Mordegon? Yeah.
They call him the Time Worm.
Okay, the Time Worm. Like, that's the main inclusion, is that, and the one you mentioned there, the Secret Trial. Those are the two big things that have been added. I haven't done excuse me, I haven't done any of the other stuff. How many other secret bosses, when you went into the altar, how many challenges were there for you to do?
The altar?
Yeah, so when you finished all the retro areas, what happened?
Okay. Yeah, you go. You haven't done that yet?
No.
You go up. You go up the stairs, and then there's a book there with 4 other trials, but they're just boss fights.
That's right. Yeah.
And I believe the first one, you fight the bosses of 3 bosses.
Right.
Sometimes the second one is another 3 boss fight. The third one is 2 consecutive battles. So the first one, I believe, you fight 2 bosses, and then you think you win, but you fight 2 more. And then the last one is the Golden Kalasmos.
Okay, so all of that is exactly the same as the 3DS one.
Except now they're in 2D.
2D, that's right, exactly. Because in the 3DS one, they alternated. So 1 or 2 of them would be in 2D, and the others would be in 3D. And I even took a video of the Golden Kalasmos one. That's on the channel if you're interested in checking that out.
Yeah, so let's talk about that a bit, because you've done this in the 3DS version. Because as a story, I was a bit let down by that, because on the 3DS version, I really liked those retro missions, and in this one too, they were a lot of fun. But I prefer the 3DS. But I was thinking and hoping for a big payoff to all this, that would explain who those Yoshis are in more detail, and would give you an idea of why this is happening and whatnot. And the big payoff is that, and I'm assuming it's the same in the 3DS version, but maybe you weren't fully sure because of the Japanese.
Yeah, exactly. But
the big payoff is that the boss, the golden Kalasmos you fight, is actually kind of like the twin brother or twin spirit of Kalasmos. So Kalasmos is kind of like the evil one, and the other one is the good one. And he just wanted to test you.
Okay.
Before you fight Kalasmos.
Which that makes no sense.
Makes no sense because in order to access that one, you need to actually beat Kalasmos, because the final quests, you can only get I believe it's the Soldu or something like that, an item that you can only get by beating Kalasmos. So it makes no sense, and I was a bit let down by that because I was expecting some kind of revelation or cool story related event, but no,
what do
it was
you
just
get though?
cool
What do you
gameplay.
get from beating him?
The golden Kalasmos?
Yeah.
I believe you get some kind of gear. I don't remember. I do remember what you get for Time Worm, but for the golden Kalasmos, I believe you just get some gear for... I don't know if it's for Hendrik, but for someone.
Okay, because I don't remember either. It's been, it's been a long, long time, and I played in another language, so... Yeah, in terms of the story, I honestly have no idea. But speaking of story, did you like the third act? Like the surprise? Did you expect what they did?
Okay, so do you want to go there right away?
Well, we can go in any direction you want.
Start with the first and the second act, but whatever, we can go there, third act. Because there's a lot of stuff I will have to say, and they will all relate, so we'll probably spend the next 15, 20 minutes or whatever talking about the story
whatever you
want to
do. Yeah, whatever you want to do. If you want to start with the first act, second act, whatever, I don't care.
Okay, so we'll see how this goes. For me, I really enjoyed the story in general. I thought there was a few holes here and there, but it was very excellent. It was also a bonus for me because I had played the 3S version for 20 hours. And I've always told you that, and you never believe me. I had no idea what was going on in that game, and now replaying that, it was like eye-opening because I was like, wow, Veronica is Serena's twin sister. I had no idea of that. Like all this kind of stuff that's happening. Like Rab is your grandfather. I had no clue. All that stuff. So it was really, really fun. And then at the end, so basically what you do, the first act it's pretty similar to most JRPGs. You go around the world, you recruit characters, and you don't really actually know what the villain is, but you know that the hero is like the luminary and he's supposed to save the world from the Dark One or something like that. So you go there, you have to find 6 orbs and to go to the world tree, Ixadril or whatever it's called.
Yeah, Yggdrasil, yeah.
And then your grandfather keeps talking about Morrigan and whatnot, stuff like that. So it's pretty cool. And then you do actually get to the world tree, and then the big shocker is that Jasper and the king were actually the king was under control by Morrigan. So Morrigan actually was in his body for I guess 10, 15 years at this point. And he backstabs you and steals the Sword of Light, and I believe with the Sword of Light he either destroys the world tree or he transformed the Sword of Light into the Sword of Darkness. I don't remember, but something like that.
Yep.
And then the world tree goes down, and everybody, the world, many people die, including, as you find out later, Veronica. And you basically are separated for a good chunk of Act 2, and you need to go ahead and find everyone again, and then rebuild the Sword of Light to go back and have a chance to kill Morrigan. So am I missing something? Anything you want to add with my short little resume of Act 2?
No, that's about it. It's was it surprising, the twist?
What twist? The Act 1 twist? The Act 2 twist?
Yeah, well, the Act 1 twist, going into Act 2, because, I say this because as a Dragon Quest fan, you know it's happening. So for me, there was no surprise whatsoever, because every Dragon Quest game over the last God knows how long has had the calamity event, is what I call it, where there's this major like change. In Dragon Quest VIII, it was with Dual Magus when you beat him and you realize like, you know, the whole game basically changed. With Dragon Quest IX, it was with the figs once you had done that and the whole game changed, and it just kept going and going and going. So for me, it was like I knew something was coming. Like I knew something was coming. I just wasn't exactly sure what it was going to be, and I was shocked that they actually like quote unquote destroyed the Sword of Light. So I thought that was absolutely awesome. For you, it may have been nothing at all, but for me, I was like, this is badass. And the thing with Veronica, man, did that get me. Like, that really got me because she was my favorite character. And when I realized, like, no, she had actually died protecting us, I was like, holy crap, man. I was like, this is like hardcore. And yeah, I loved that. I absolutely loved it.
The game probably is one of the best games in the genre of developing its characters. Like, by the end of the game, every character, there's nobody there that's just there as like a side note. They all play a major part. They all have backstories. Even Sylvando, like, you go back a lot of times to see his father, and you know him by the end of the game. Like, there's a lot of these characters that when I played the 3DS version, I didn't really care about because I wasn't using them. But in this game, I ended up caring about all of them and using them. And even Veronica, when she dies, and then you go and Serena like combines her powers with her. Serena is so overpowered at that point for like a very, very small portion of the story, when she gets like basically all of Veronica's powers with her. She's just like a monster, and you get like so much skill points out of that. And I was like, man, it's going to be easy Act 3 with her. But anyway, we're going to go to Act 3 soon. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed that, especially recruiting all those characters. I do want to say that I did enjoy the 4 side missions that we have that are exclusive with the S version at the beginning of Act 2. However, I thought the Sylvando one could have been cut like almost entirely, or at least shortened out to like 15-20 minutes, because that one really dragged. I did not enjoy that one, but the one with Jade was fantastic. The one with Eric was fantastic. What's the other one? There was 4, I believe, right? One with Hendrik, is it what? I don't know. Maybe there was only 3.
No, but wasn't there one with Rab?
Yeah, you're right. The one with Rab when he's training in the Anguilla region. Yeah, those were awesome, except for the Sylvando one. But I think they add a lot, and they actually explain what's going on. Like when you see, imagine when you see Jade in the original version, and she's just there working for that boss, a big boss. You don't really know why. So it's, I guess you would have been surprised when you see her, but there's no backstory. Now you actually know what happened. So when you get to Octagonia, you're anticipating that encounter and you're hyping it. I think it's even better this way, but I haven't experienced both ways. This is the first one, but I really enjoyed this because even with Eric, when you're going to the hideout, you're expecting him and he's right there in your boat. It's really fun. When you see Rab and he's like really, really tiny now for like 5 seconds, then he gets all his fat back for some reason. But it was really fun. Really like this. And then obviously when you rebuild the Sword of Light, you go to Mortigan's castle, which is a very long and kick-ass castle, which is actually, there's an item in there that you can get after in a separate way, but it's a ring or a wristwear that increase your agility by 100, and you only get access to that door like right before you go to beat the boss, and so you need to go all the way back to the beginning, but it's worth it. Stuff like that I thought was cool. But I don't think there's a single item in this game that's missable. I think they made it so that if you go to an area that you can't go after, that you will have the option to find it and craft it later. I don't know if that's 100% true, but I do believe it is. Can you confirm that?
I think so, man. I think so. I think you're right. I think it's designed in such a way that there's nothing that's truly missable, which is good. Honestly, I prefer that because like it's super annoying when you go and you're like, oh, son of a bee, I missed like X, and now I won't be able to craft that whatever.
Yep.
But,
all right, so then
okay,
go ahead. So then after that, after you sort of craft the Sword of Light, you finish that dungeon, you go and you battle Morrigan. I think there's 2 stages to this battle. The first one, and he's just Morrigan. Actually, he's probably a demon of some sort. And then you defeat him, and then he becomes Morrigan's head and Morrigan's tails, or whatever, the 2-part thing. And then you defeat that, and then you get what happens again. I believe you restore the world tree. So basically, you save the world. That's what happens there. The first credits rolls. I'm not sure. Did I miss anything about the ending of Act 2?
I don't think so. I think that's about it. Yeah, keep going.
Okay, so then after that is the post-game stuff, which is what you've been wanting to talk about forever with someone. So I have a few gripes with it as far as story, minor ones, some a bit more major, but I just want to say first off that I really enjoyed this. It adds, I think I beat the game in 70 hours, and it took me another 35, 40 hours just for the post-game stuff, maybe more. So it's really fun. I would highly recommend playing it if you enjoy the game. As far as the story, my biggest gripe is its use of time travel, and I know you'll probably defend it because it's just I have a big gripe in general with time travel and how it's usually used, and in this instance I don't mind it as much because it's a video game. It's a means to an end. It's a means to get you to play. The only issue is I believe that it kind of brings a big hole at the end of the game. Okay, so I'll just start with the beginning. So you, after the credits roll, you get a hint to go visit an area, which is the Time Temple or whatever it's called, because you find a gear to go there, which is cool because you find the reminiscence of the Hades Above village, which you find in Act 2, which we didn't talk about, where there's only one of those. How are they called again? The Elder, not the Elders, what are they called? The Watchers?
The Watchers?
Yeah, the Watchers. You find there's only one left alive in the game. But that village has been like destroyed, and you go down and you where like the rest of the village is, and you find the gear to go to the Temple of Time, and you meet this giant Yoshi spirit kind of thing, where you talk to her, and she tells you basically that there's a way to go back and change stuff. So you could go back and save Veronica, for example, but you need to break the sphere of time with the Sword of Light. So that's basically what you do, and that brings you back. This was awesome, by the way. This was awesome. When you break the sphere in time, and it brings you back to Act 1, basically. It brings you back to the area where you first went to the World Tree to retrieve the Sword of Light. It brings you back to that. So I'm going to stop it here if you want to add anything to what I'm saying.
Yeah, so, okay. So, all throughout Act 1 and Act 2, you have, and I'm sorry I keep calling them Yoshis, but basically you have these toggles that are everywhere. And right at Act 2, there's this one particular toggle who's in the introduction of the game, by the way, which I find so interesting, how if you play the game for a second time, you're going to notice so many things of how all of this connects together. And I think that's probably why I've enjoyed the game so much, is because they did such a good job of tying all of these pieces together that the very first time I played the game, I didn't quite realize it. But when I played the game again on, I think it was, what did I do? I played 3DS first, then I played PS4, if I remember right. And anyways, when I played the PS4 version is when I started to notice how all of these things, like I never realized that when I went back and I watched the original introduction, that it's the Tackle who becomes Kolasmos is in the bloody introduction of the game. Like, that's awesome. Anyway, after Mordegon gets the Sword of Light, he stops this big sphere from like going to this particular Tackle, and I thought that was so interesting.
That's called Erdwin's Lantern or Erdwick.
Yeah,
Lantern?
that's right. Erdwin's
Erdwin
Lantern.
Lantern,
Yeah. And so he destroys it. And I honestly, at the time when I was playing the game, I didn't think anything of it. I was just like, okay, well, whatever. And then when you go to the Temple of Time, as I'm calling it, but whatever it's called, and you realize that your team is telling you like they don't want you to go, right? Because like Steven, like you're saying, with like time stories, there's always tangents and it's going to get weird and there's going to be plot holes, and there absolutely is. But I didn't really care, to be honest, because I absolutely loved the way that I had an opportunity to now go back and actually save one of my favorite characters, and the way it happens when you break the time sphere or whatever it's called, and you see everyone, like these memories start vanishing. I thought that was amazing. And to think that this is post-game content, right? Like there's a chance that people will never experience this, and I was just sitting there freaking out. I'll never forget it because it's the same thing on your 3DS. I'm sitting on my sofa and I'm just like, this is freaking amazing. I'm like, this is amazing. And I have no one to share this experience with because I'm like, nobody, who the hell is going to play this, let alone play it in Japanese, let alone make it to, like post game. I'm like, nobody's going to experience this. So I'm going to be the loser talking to myself about it. Yeah. So I'm very happy that you got to experience this.
Yeah, the time travel stuff for me, have you seen the last Avengers movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's time travel in that was done almost perfectly in that movie. Like I can accept stuff won't make sense. Doesn't matter as long as there's a rule and they follow it. And they broke it in the last like 5 minutes of the movie I think they did this because they wanted an out for an actor that was leaving, but whatever. They even admitted, one of them admitted that it didn't make sense. And it completely ruined the movie for me. Just that little part. And I haven't watched it since. And before that last 5 minutes, I thought that this was the best Marvel movie ever. I was so in love with it. And then they did a little tiny thing, and I cannot get over it. And in this one, it's not that bad. The first time travel part, okay. The meaning of it is to prolong the story, to go back and give you all those things you might not have noticed. It's awesome. It's just they do this again at the end, which when they did that kind of, because here's the thing, what happens to the guys that you leave behind? Are they dead now?
Well, in theory, the world would continue.
Okay,
like
so
if Back to the Future taught me anything,
yeah, Back
that
to the Future is a fun movie, but it completely doesn't use, because for me, time travel, when you go back, it doesn't really matter. But for me, you create an alternate universe. But in this case, because for them, if that's the case, why do they want to go back? Because in that timeline, Veronica's still dead. Nothing will change for them.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
But if they are indeed, because the way they make it feel, which doesn't make sense, is that the characters to that where the hero goes back, they have these deja vu sense, which doesn't make sense.
No,
right?
that makes no sense. Yeah, exactly.
Because they're not. If they have these deja vu sense, that should mean that the other characters are actually dead or gone.
Yeah, I'm not thinking you're going.
Yeah, no,
I'm
going full head because that's how I am. Because if that's what this should mean in of course, you can. This is a video game. It's fiction. You can have your theories. You can make up your mind however you want it. But that's how I made it. It's that since they are having deja vu moments because they keep referencing that they have a feeling they've already been here. They do this multiple times during the game. And it makes sense for the hero because the hero actually regains his memories, but they should not. So to me, that means that when you destroy the sphere of time, you go back in time and that world doesn't exist anymore. The one you came from, you're recreating it, so they're dead. Which means when the hero, the girl hero at the end, when she breaks it again, that when she does that, I mean, what are you doing? You just killed everybody. That's how my mind thinks, and that's why I thought that it weakened it a bit for me.
For me, it's every the way I look at it is that, and I think this is the way they intended to write it. I
just want to say that it's me, and I have a bit too much when it comes to time travel, because you can use time travels with lazy story writing, and you can make whatever you want with it. And I prefer when they have a set of rules. And in this game, I don't, like I said, it's there for a reason, and it was very entertaining. But that last sphere breaking kind of, I was like, I could have used without that one. Even though you reunite those two, it's pretty cool what you do. And you probably set up like some kind of like linear, like they probably become like the ancestors of the whatever. Anyway, I'll let you speak. I thought that I could have used that last. I could have went without that last fear breaking, because it kind of broke the. Because like I said, because of the deja vu, it meant for me that the characters were dead. So this would have meant that anyway. I'll let you talk. You know what I mean?
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, Steven has serious time travel fascination. I'm recommending he gets a PhD in quantum physics, because I've never seen anyone analyze.
But you never thought about this?
Okay, so basically the way I treated this when I originally played it was as such. When the hero goes back in time, that world tangents off. Okay, it breaks apart and creates like a parallel like point in time. So when he goes back, I agree that the whole deja vu stuff doesn't make really any sense. But at the end of the game, basically it's Serenica who goes back in time to Erdwin. Now, this is where things get very interesting. I actually think they get interesting because of that. And you need to think about all of this. And there's even plot points in the story that do make you go, there's certain ones like with the mermaid type thing. She like knew she killed herself type of thing. Like, it's weird. It's really odd. But anyways, the last one, if Serenica didn't do that, right, then how did the Luminaries lineage, as you say, how did it start in the first place? Because it's Serenica and Erdwin that have children that continue the line of the Luminary up to the point that you're born.
Yeah, but you were already there, and she had never, like, you had to.
Well, I'm just saying, like, because like,
so it doesn't make sense. It's like, but the thing is, do we know if Erdwin and Veronica had children before they fought?
No,
so maybe
we don't.
did.
We don't. Exactly.
That's what I thought.
Precisely. But I like that, they get reunited. But
don't get me wrong. It was a pretty cool moment. It's just what did I call it? I kept talking about it when I played this game, about I had to visit every area and blah blah. What's the term for that?
Your OCD?
Yeah, my OCD kicked in when I saw that and was like, okay, this kind of is cool. I like it, but it doesn't make sense. But whatever. Well, you know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah. No. Look, the reason why I liked it is because. Okay, well, we're spoiler cast, so I mean we're talking spoilers. Yeah. When you meet the Yggdragon,
yep,
and she starts talking to you, and says that, you were able to do what Erdwin wasn't able to do. And you hear the overture playing, and it's like, I bestow upon you the honorary title of Erdrick, meaning that for the very first time, like, you are the legendary hero that's referenced throughout the entire series. And I just thought it was such a badass way, because the whole time we're talking about Erdwin, and I thought it was weird because
I thought it was a mistranslation, obviously.
Yeah, me too.
Honestly,
me too.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, because in Japanese it's not Loto. It's another name that they use, and I was like, well, there's no way. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, the kanji is off. And I didn't understand the whole game. I didn't understand why they were referencing that. But then at the end, when she refers to you as Erdrick, and then you see the Sword of Light, and you see the hero from Dragon Quest 1 pick it up, and then, from there, you get your credits. After your credits, the very last scene, which also the credits, by the way, I think are some of my favorite ever.
For me, it didn't have the same impact as you, obviously, because I didn't grow up playing the Famicom games, and I played most of them, but not all. But it was still pretty epic. So I can't imagine what it was for you.
Oh yeah, man! Like, I'm serious. When I first saw the hero from Dragon Quest 1 pick up the Sword of Light, and he does that swoosh where you see his cape go over, and you see the Dragon Lord's castle in the background, and then it fades to you actually seeing.
I texted you. I was like, "Wow, this is awesome!" Now there's Dragon Warrior music playing for some reason. I was like, "This is fantastic." It was just like, at some point, Dragon Warrior music. I call it Dragon Warrior. It's Dragon Quest 1 music starts playing. Like it. What was it? Was like the doo. Anyway.
Yeah.
I was like, wow.
No,
and
like
then I imagine that the music changes with every game.
Yeah, with every game. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well done.
Yeah, well done is right, man. Like I seriously thought like this is it. Like it. I don't know how you're going to get better than this. And yeah, it's not perfect. It's not a perfect game, and I don't claim it to be a perfect game. But of the single player Dragon Quest games, like this was like the perfect way to tie in 30 years of a series. And anyways, when it goes on, I really like the fact that they tied in Serenica and Erdwin right at the end. You see them running together after you had just seen this whole amazing lineage, 30 years of games. The screen fades to black, and you see a woman's reading. And when I saw that, the minute I saw that, I was like, this cannot get any better. And she closes the book, she puts it in the bookshelf, walks up a couple of stairs, goes into a bedroom, and I'm just like floored, because that's the hero from Dragon Quest 3.
Is that how Dragon Quest 3 starts?
Yeah,
is that
that's
why
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how
I've never
you know.
played that game. That's why.
Yeah, that's how it starts. And I was just like, well, this is the greatest thing ever. and then they just put the fin, and that's it. And to understand the relevance of this and why I've waited so long to talk about this is because Dragon Quest 3 was like, that was the game. That's the game that caused you to be able to walk into a 7-Eleven in Japan today and buy slime-based contact solution. Okay? Like, it's the game that set Japan on fire and forever solidified this series in like the hearts and minds of like Japanese pulp culture, and it's not going anywhere. And the fact that they tied that in, that moment in to this game, I was just like, this is like near perfection. I would love to see something like this done with Zelda one day, or another series that I really like.
I was thinking about Pokemon the entire way.
Yeah, there you go.
When you were seeing those credits, I was like, man, I wish Pokemon had something like that, like one of these days. But I don't think they ever will, because they treated a bit too much on the kiddie size, in my opinion. They never go too much epic like this, but I would kill for that. I also like. We got the origins of Morrigan, which he's basically like Kalasmos and the twin brother. He's the twin brother, whatever you want to call it. He's basically the twin, or the legendary hero. One of the legendary heroes was called what, Mortis something.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I don't remember the English name. Yeah.
He backstabbed the hero, Erdwin, and because he got like hooked to the darkness, it's kind of like Star Wars kind of similarity. And then he basically created two different persons, like Morrigan, and then the other one, which is he's the guy who helps you during the trials, I believe. No, he's the what's it called?
He was the seer.
Woman, the seer. He's the seer because the guy in the trial is the other legendary hero, which the guy that looks like Hendrik, kind of like. You can actually get armor for Hendrik that looks. You can get legendary armor for all of them, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
But, okay, I want to talk about Kalasmos because this is the kind of like a similar situation to what you had with the Messenger. How I hyped up the Messenger to you. I'm going to close this. How I hyped up the Messenger to you so much that when you played it, you kind of like meh, whatever. Kalasmos, you kept talking about how people did not know who the true final boss was and blah blah blah, and the one reason why Kalasmos to me is weak is that he doesn't do anything at all in this game. In Act 2, when you start Act 2, one of the reasons why I thought the Sylvando mission was so long was because you really if you get into the story, you can't wait to go and kick Morrigan's ass, because Morrigan just killed a lot of people, including when you find out later, Veronica. He just burned the world tree down to the ground. He does all this stuff. The world is basically all black. It's epic. In Act 3, what does Kalasmos do? He appears and that's it. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't kill anybody. Of course, you learn that there's a bigger threat there, but you have to do something. You need a reason to want to fight him. You need a bad guy, a good guy. And this reason, he just exists for the sake of existing. So I thought Kalasmos was pretty weak. He's a lot better in the legendary hero storyline, and they sealed him away. But we know he has the potential to ruin everything. But that's also the same case for every single villain in every single JRPG. In my mind, Kalasmos didn't do anything at all for me in this game, and he just existed to exist. So when you say the true final boss, people have no idea who they are, you're right. But the true final boss in this game is still Morrigan in my mind, because he does way more than this dude does. He's just there for you to go and defeat. He's just a tough battle at the end. That's all Kalasmos was to me. I was very disappointed, especially how you hyped him up in the past to me.
Sorry about that. I had my thing on mute. So that's fair. I mean, that's totally fair. One of the things that did it for me was that, like, okay, I'm going to get into like hardcore Dragon Quest lore here, so just bear with me. When he defeated the dragon, basically, right? That led to the creation of the Dragon Lord. And so I just thought it was so badass how, like, the original, like, quote unquote villain, this guy is the guy that did that. So, and the Dragon Lord is essentially responsible for destroying everything and creating this little tiny land that you see in the first Dragon Quest. That's one of the ways they explain why it's so small, is because everything else has been completely destroyed. So it was just that connection. That's all it was. The connection to me was like, wow, like, this is so incredibly badass. But I totally understand, like, what you're saying there in terms of the actual game, what they actually show you, and this and that. Like, if you're not a uber nerd of Dragon Quest, you're never going to get any of these things. So totally understand that. I'm assuming you don't regret playing the post, though, right?
No, the post was fantastic. Like, basically everybody that dies in Act 2, including the mermaid, is now alive in Act 3 because you save everybody basically. The only one you don't fully save is Jasper, I guess. But you now actually, he kind of gets his redemption if you want. But yeah, Act 3 was fantastic. The gameplay, like everything was fun about it, but it felt a lot more relaxing than Act 2. In Act 2, you were actually stressed. You had tough bosses. The world was like in chaos. In Act 3, the world was totally fine,
Mm-hmm.
even though there was
fair.
a huge black hole in the sky that was menacing. Like everybody was fine.
My biggest complaint with the third act is I don't know why the game doesn't automatically point you to what is it called?
Nautica. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't understand why the game doesn't do that, because without the whatever, the charm or whatever it is that you get, you're left basically to your own devices to try and figure out where you have to go next. And I understand like it's cool from like an exploration standpoint, but that bothered me even originally. Like I don't know why they did that. Because with that charm, it's great because you know exactly, like they give you a whole list of like problems that people are facing, and you can go of your own accord and go in any order and you know tackle different things, plus all of your different quests. Hey, by the way, did you ever go back and kill that dragon?
Which one?
The very first dragon. You know, like in the demo, you were like, "Oh,
the black dragon." Yeah, I killed him the very first chance I get when I went back there. I believe you do that in Act 1 or in Act. Yeah, I believe you do that in Act 1 when you go back through those No, you do that in Act 2 with Hendrik when you go back to those dungeons. Yeah, I killed him right away the very first chance I.
Oh, really?
I
didn't know you could. I didn't even know you could do that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then there you go. All right. Cool. All right. Well, never mind then. Okay, so overall, if we were to say, like overall, what do you think of this? How does this game rank up to the other Dragon Quests you've played?
Oh, it's definitely one of the best. I believe eventually, when we eventually redo another ranking of these games, it might be my number one. I'm not sure if it will beat Dragon Quest 7 yet, but I think it will. I just have to give it a few more. I actually want to go and redo the Kalasmos fight because I want to see that ending again, digest it a bit better, re-see and pay more attention. I want to do that because that was epic. I really for me, the quality of life stuff is amazing. This is why, like you mentioned to me, how the other Dragon Quest games are. This is why I'll never go back to them to do those post-game stuff. Just that the fact that there's fast battle from the beginning. You can set the AI to do everything except at one point in Act 2 you need to start playing the game because you won't be even, doesn't matter how leveled up you are, you won't be able to beat some of these regular bosses, especially when they start confusing you and making you dance and stuff like that. I really love all that stuff. The Forge is fantastic. I can't recommend enough how much easier it is to get the best gear possible, how you can buy stuff, because you really notice this, how buying stuff is a lifesaver once in the later game when you get recipes, which requires you to get material that you can't buy, and then you realize, oh my god, what if this would have been the same for every single recipe in the game? This is amazing. And once you're level 99, forging stuff is so easy. Even the 5-star items, it was like, man, I was getting +3s of everything, and it was just amazing. This is what I wanted. I wanted to play a Dragon Quest game and feel like I was getting good at it. And by the end of the game, I'm not saying that I'm good at this game by any means, but I was actually learning, and because in some cases you were useless, like I thought you would be. I would ask you something and it was like, you gave me such simple, vague advice, and I would just figure it out by myself or look online. But there's actually, surprisingly, because there's a lot of stuff that's exclusive to this version, including the Time Worm fight and the secret trial. If you Google that stuff, you're only going to get 1 or 2 topics, and you're not going to get much. I assume that the more weeks go by, the more this will be false because there'll be more content. But there's a lot of stuff. Basically, I don't think many people played the post game yet, or many people play the game at all, or as we'll talk maybe later. But yeah, this was fantastic. Grinding up to level 99, no joke. In post game in Act 3, it takes about an hour, maybe less. It's fantastic. Like, this is amazing. That's why, like, I don't think I would love to go back and play Dragon Quest 7 and go and defeat God or whatever, but I know I won't have access to all these little things I just mentioned, and I hate grinding so much. So, but in this game, it was really fun. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but this was really a fantastic game, and yeah, very well worth your attention.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, Dragon Quest VIII, the re-release, I don't want to say remake because it wasn't technically a remake on the 3DS. They did include some quality of life stuff to make it easier to get to level 99, but not as easy as this. I mean, this is ridiculous. Technically, in Act 2, if you're masochistic, you could start to do some crazy stuff. But it's just way easier to do in Act 3, and I'm hoping that they continue this trend with future Dragon Quest releases, because it makes it fun, right? Like, it makes the third act much more enjoyable. Whereas like you said, with Dragon Quest 7, I only did it on the PlayStation 1 version because it just takes so long to grind out to get to level 99, to grind out the enemy hearts so that you can get the monster team that's required. Like, oh man, it's pretty brutal. Like, it's pretty brutal.
Yeah, no, I'm not sure if I would have gotten the Platinum Trophy in the PS4 version with what I did. Maybe there's a few things I was missing, but not much. I would easily have gotten those if there was more to do, but pretty much did everything in this game, and I had so much fun doing it. And even the tough battles, like the Time Worm battle, and I know you'll probably get it in the first try, but it's a super tough battle, man. Even at level 99, it's like the Golden Kalasmos thing was a joke, complete joke. And this Time Worm dude, even at level 99, took me like 5 tries to beat, and that might not seem like much, but it's a pretty long fight. And it's like, even when I got him, I was pretty lucky. I got him with like one last was some kind of multi-hit attack. I don't remember who did it, but I was almost gonna die, and that I did that attack, and everybody died to my surprise, and I was happy because, man, that guy is so hard. And I believe that even at level 99, and because I think I had the best gear on everyone. Maybe 1 or 2 people did not, but I even had those Catalicon rings +3 made for everybody, where they basically, they're 5-star rings that protects you from all status ailments. I had everything, and it's just, there's a lot, I believe, of RNG involved in that fight.
Yeah, for sure.
Even if you're well prepared, like I said, you could go in, beat him the first try, and take him crazy. But I
don't think so.
You could go in and take like 10, 15 tries or 5 tries before you actually manage to get close to him, because there's some instances that are just unwinnable, because he'll, even with all those rings, he'll hit and confuses everybody for some reason, or he'll just kill everybody. But it's a really fun fight, and once you do it, you're very proud of yourself. Yeah, and man. It's like, it reminds me when you told me the roulette thing, how it was hard, and I got the jackpot on my very first try.
Yeah,
in roulette,
well, you're lucky.
And I was you're crazy, man. You're crazy. It's so easy. And then I know, because I actually eventually had to do this 4 times to get money, get gold, get the quest, whatever. And the other times it took me like an hour or 2 every time. So it's not that simple. So it's like, if anybody out there goes and beats Time War on his first try and thinks I'm crazy, I just want to tell you that I did the jackpot on roulette on the first try, and go try that fight again and see if I'm crazy. It's unless there's a way, if you grind out seeds, which takes a lot more time, like probably you're looking at like 10-15 hours if you want to grind out every seed. then that fight obviously is easy. If you go there and you have a Hero, Hendrik, and Eric with 999 attack, it's gonna be easy. Yeah, no, never mind that.
And so that is something though that some Dragon Quest games force you to do. Not 999, that's a little excessive, but they do force you to grind out seeds, or they force you to really, really be creative. I haven't experienced this guy yet there, so I gave you the strategy that I would use. I don't know if that's the strategy you used, but
I basically went in there and had like 1 million pet pips. So the one that everybody gets pet power, and I used the blessing. And then
exactly.
If I could, I would use the magic burst and then more elfin elixir. The problem is that it's the 2-hand fight, right? From
yeah.
So once it starts with 1, then just before he switches, he does this thing where he removes all your buffs. Yep. And if you're pepped up, he removes that too, and then he switches to the other hand. And then before he goes back to the both hands, he does that same thing again. And then when he hears the 2 hands, if you start the fight with the 2 hand and you have somebody that's dead, you're basically screwed. You need, before that fight with the 2 hand happens, the final form, you need to make sure that everybody's much to full health as possible, and that your MP is pretty much, because when he's at 2 hands, he has like 6 turns before you're 4. And besides, even if you use a pip, at some point, if somebody is like asleep or confused, you can't use the blessing. And then he has this attack where he gobbles up 2 persons at a time instead of 1. And obviously they lose their pep power, and you can't use the blessing, and you can't switch them out when they're in his mouth. So there's a lot of stuff that happens that makes that strategy is basically foolproof, except for that part where it's like you need to be kind of lucky to get it, or or have tons of seed. Like I said, you might get it the first try.
I don't think so.
It's just,
man, I'm purposely extending this right now. So like the seeds, because I do typically go for seeds. The seeds that I go for, though, usually are the life seeds, the magic seeds. And I usually get my characters to about 600 attack.
Okay, so you'll be you'll be fine, I believe. I did not do that. So if you grind those seeds,
I'm only doing that. I'm only doing that now because it's like I told you yesterday. It's the last time I'm going to play 11.
So I know. I'm just saying that because of that, I don't think you'll have any problems with.
Well, it depends, man. We'll see, right? Like we'll see. But like this is something that I wish you had a way. I just wish you had some sort of mechanism, like a cheat or a hack or something, so that you could experience Dragon Quest VIII's Memories Lane. Because what's so cool about that is that it's the only thing, as far as I know, in Dragon Quest history that was designed to challenge you at very specific like areas, okay? So the enemies are designed that even if you have 999 in every stat, including health and magic, okay, you can still get one shot. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it because, like, there's one enemy that hits for 5,000, right, on one character. So there's nothing. Like, it doesn't matter what you have, you're gonna die. And what you have to do is, what you don't know is that he only has health of like 40. That's all he has for like health, but you don't know that like when you go in. That's why I'm not telling you who it is or what it is. And the way you have to kill him is you have to poison him and then buff your characters like crazy. Defend. It's the only fight I've ever experienced where all you're trying to do is stay alive. You're not attacking. Like all you do is heal, buff, defend. And when I beat the guy, I almost threw my 3DS like out the window because I was so happy. But I love when a game is able to do that.
It's not, obviously I don't think the Time Worm was as hard as that, but when I did beat him, I was like, I had a sense of pride and happiness for
Oh, I'm
doing
sure,
something
man.
totally unimportant in one's life. I was like, my girlfriend just arrived, and she saw me. I just beat this hard boss, babe, and she was like, "What are you talking about?" Like it looked like I had just won the lottery. Like it was amazing.
I know.
But it's just
I know.
something in this game, though, is that at the end of the game, I was surprised by myself because I kept telling you, like, I don't know what to invest and whatnot. And it was like at the end of the game, like Eric, I had these dual boomerangs, and it was
Oh
just
yeah, man.
a murderer, man. It was
Yep.
just ridiculous when you use the divide and you create two doppelgangers or whatever it's called, and then you use double down and you see these ridiculous amounts of hit points go all over the screen to these
Yep.
bosses, and he just destroys them. But I also had daggers on him in case I wanted to poison somebody and stuff like that. So it's just, even with Hendrik, I didn't use great swords during the entire game except when he got here and that unbridled blade thing.
Yep.
And then I had an axe on him too, and just in case, because he has a cool multi-hit attack with the axe. It's just like there's so much stuff I was doing near the end that was like un-Steven-like, because I usually don't know what to do with these things. But this game, really fun, and every character has like so many. And Jade, to my surprise, Jade is so useful in this game, and everybody I read online kind of like was dismissing her, but I ended up using her a lot. She has this multi-trust ability that is amazing, that can hit massive damage, especially when you revamp her. It's just a super fun game. The character I ended up using the less, I believe, is Rab, for some reason. Which I was using in the beginning, but at the end there, it was just there to try to debuff the enemies and stuff like that. I used him. He's still useful, but he's probably the one I use the less. But yeah, I loved him. Even Sylvando was useful, especially in those trials.
Yeah, no, man, it's quite the game, and it's kind of sad, I find, that it did not do as well as I had hoped. I'm kind of sad about that.
I blame you for that.
Probably.
Because you did not do your usual COE ambassador job of hyping this game up. There's no videos on it, you bastard, since it came out. Not even a single vlog. It's all your fault. You're as official, like, North American ambassador of the series. There's some blame on you.
Yes, official.
Because it's not me and you. I think you bought the game 4 times. I bought the game 3 times. So I've done my share. You've done your share, but.
Yeah, I'm worried though. I am worried about the future of this series.
Yeah, I think it's the end of this series, at least in North America. I think you will never see a day 1 release anymore. Dragon Quest X will never see the day here. Dragon Quest 12, if it comes here, will be published by Nintendo or Sony like 2 years after. Like, because this is not good, guys. Not good. Even the Japanese sales are kind of soft.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the only thing that and it's not even justifying it, but like the only sort of thing I can sort of understand in Japan is that it really isn't the definitive edition. Like many people bought both versions, or they bought one of the other that they wanted. But if I did, what does this game give me that I haven't already experienced? And the truth is, like, yeah, it combines essentially like both versions of the games, minus what we're just talking about. But I really don't know, is that enough justification to buy it again? And I'm not sure.
The only thing for Japanese people, I guess, would be the new side chapters and the fact that the Yoshi missions are now full 2D. I guess that's kind of new. Yeah, I know it's not like really
exactly. And so like the game sold around 400,000 units plus or minus a bit, and I think when it's all said and done, I think it's going to end up somewhere around 500,000, which is fine. I mean, like the way I consider it is it's a port. It's not a remake. It's not it's a port. And a port of a 2-year-old game that, like, for them it's a 2-year-old game that I look at it like, I mean, if it can get 500,000, I think that's okay. I'm pretty sure Square Enix wanted better than that, but they had to know. I mean, they had to know. The game sold like 4 million copies essentially in a week in Japan. So, like, when it was originally released, it sold like 3 point something million almost instantly. And so, I mean, what did you really expect? But in North America, I think it's a really bad story, because the PlayStation 4 and PC version at most sold about 700,000 at most. That's combined. And now a year later, based on all the charts that we've seen and like the rankings, I don't even know if it sold 100,000. And that's awful. Like, that's really, really awful. Even if I put it at like 200,000, given the size of our market, ugh.
And
like,
the
that's
publisher and the system.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything on the Switch right now, like Astral Chain, like charted in August in the top 10 NPD, not top 10 Switch, and top 10 NPD in August, even though it came out on like the 28th of August or the 29th of August. It charted, and that's a third-party exclusive Switch game. This is published by Nintendo, so it's essentially a first-party exclusive to the Switch. And everything on Switch right now, at least when it comes to exclusive, most of everything sells decently at least. Yep. And this one was number 7 on the top 10 Switch game, not NPD. So that's a bit alarming to me. I don't see this being positively met by Square Enix in Japan to warrant them to invest more in this market.
Yeah, and it's a real shame. Like, I'm really saddened by this, because it's just, I mean, I don't know what they can do. I really don't know what else they can do. I know we've said, day and date release and stuff like that, but I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know. So, do we do a blast from the past?
Yeah. So, since this is a Dragon Quest XI podcast, we thought we'd talk about the 3DS version of Dragon Quest XI for a blast from the past, because we knew we need one for the Fanboyz episode. So, I've only played 20 hours of it. I thought it was really, really fantastic. This is probably the game I want the most localized, which we'll never get. Unfortunately, I still had hopes last year as Nintendo could, because there's 2 games I would want for the 3DS as a last hurrah here, and that's Dragon Quest XI, and the other one is Pokemon Z, which I know existed at some point. I'm really curious what happened to it. I hope one day we will find out, but I thought it would have been a kick-ass move by Nintendo to maybe publish those 2 games at some point, maybe even sell them online exclusively as kind of a last hurrah to 3DS. Would have been really cool. Really loved that game. Like I said, the retro missions were fantastic there. I just wished I would have learned or understood a bit of Japanese so I could get into that game a bit more. But yeah, it was really fantastic, and I think you have played it in both 3D and 2D, so you basically know that game a lot better than anyone in this in North America at least. So you can talk a bit more about it.
I know it better than anyone in the world, man.
Well, you're probably in the top 10 or top 50 in the world who've played more of that game.
Well, I don't know, but yeah, I went through it once in Japanese. I went through it once in 3D, once in 2D, and I loved it. I thought it was the best version of Dragon Quest XI. Now I think now it's probably the second best version. I say that only because with the Switch version, you do get all the lush visuals, you get the orchestrated soundtrack, you get a lot of bonus content, but above all of that, I think it's more the quality of life stuff what pushes it over the edge to me. But I will say that it's close. And I know that to people who have not played the 3DS version that you're listening to this, you might be like, what? That doesn't make any sense, and this and that and everything else. But you didn't play it, so you can't have an opinion if you didn't actually experience it. And it's an amazing game. I mean, it really is. It's one of my favorite games on the 3DS. And it's actually one of my favorite games, period. I'm really glad that I got to experience that version first before I played anything else, because I don't know, it really tied nicely into Dragon Quest VII, Dragon Quest VIII, which had been released or remastered there on the 3DS, and it was a really fitting experience to have. And, you know, getting the surprise that they gave you Dragon Quest 1 as a gift when you beat the game, that was so cool. You know, that's nowhere to be found here. Like, nowhere to be found. But it was just, I don't know. I loved it. I thought, even the mini game, you know, using Street Pass, you didn't need to use Street Pass. You could do sort of like what's done in the Switch version, where there would be these colored yoshi or tockles that would just be standing around. So the more you explored, the higher your chance of finding one that was a good, like, grade quality, either rank A or rank S, which you could then put in those little micro dungeons that they had, which were really fun. I really, really enjoyed that. And there was also a lot of exclusive gear that was in the 3DS one that was not in the PS4 version, which all of that has been brought over to the Switch version. And it was a really, really great game. And I still find it heartbreaking that they never released it in North America. And especially now, considering these sales and stuff, I think it will forever remain a Japanese exclusive. But I am happy that I was able to send you a copy of the game. I think I sent that to you, didn't I?
Yeah. You sent me a physical copy of that game, which is still sealed, because I had downloaded it, because you forced me to download it. But it was really fun.
Yeah, so that's that. So I'm not sure where we go from here. I'm not sure where the future of Dragon Quest lies, because Steve and I were chatting about this yesterday, and it's one of these things where it's like, it's so ingrained in Japanese pulp culture now that I just can't see them like modernizing the gameplay too much, or changing the art style, or any of these things, because it's like it is what it is, you know. And it's really sad. I watched a video that someone did that I thought was actually quite well done, saying that, you know, Dragon Quest never had its Final Fantasy VII moment. It just never had it. And considering where we are in technology and where we are like today, it probably is never going to get it. Like, what are we going to do to have like that perfect trifecta of time, graphics, new system, new medium? Like, that's never going to happen again. It's not like we're going to have a VR revolution. VR is out. You know what I mean? Yeah, there might be a killer app one day, but it's not going to be Dragon Quest. So I don't know where we go from here. I'm sad. I'm really sad that this happened, because I was so hopeful that this could crack at least 1 million units. And it seems like that's like a pipe dream. And that's so unfortunate. So I don't know. I just don't know where we go from here.
Is Dragon Quest X V5 the last version of Dragon Quest X?
Nope. We have at least one more, because they said they had a plan for 10 years.
So we still have 3 years to go?
Yeah, exactly.
So when do you expect 12 to be announced?
12 should be, we should get our teaser next year or the year after, like they always do. They do the logo reveal first.
Really? That far? You don't think they'll reveal the logo this year?
No chance. No chance. It's already, hell, it's October 28th. There's no way.
Because like if it's like if it's still like 2 years away, like you Dragon Quest 11 came out 2 years ago, you don't expect Dragon Quest 12 for another 3 or 4 years still?
Yeah, it's usually it's typically like modern releases are about 5 years between the release. 3 to 5 years. It depends on the one, but I don't expect it this generation. So I think what we'll do is we'll get next gen right next year, And so next year, I could see us getting a title reveal and then getting official confirmation in 2021 about like where it's heading and what the concept is, things like that. I think what they're going to do in order to fill the gap is we already know that the Dragon Quest Monsters, the next addition to Dragon Quest Monsters, features Eric and his sister as kids. And we know that, like, they've already had concept art out, so I think that's going to be the next reveal.
Okay.
But in terms of the numbered entry, I don't know. I really don't know. And especially now, like when they look at the sales of North America, I'm sure like just make a mobile release for Japan and you'll sell like a gajillion copies of it. It'll be the highest selling Dragon Quest in history. And there you go. I mean, they're making so much money off of Rivals, Dragon Quest X, and all their other ones that they have on mobile now. Like, it's crazy because they're all like subscription based, or they're like pay to play type stuff. That they're like, Rivals is crazy how much money they're making off that. And I was surprised that they didn't announce that for North America. But now after the sales of this, I don't think we're going to be getting very, very many things. I'll be surprised.
Yeah, well, it's kind of sad, but if this is the last one, at least it ended with a bang.
Yeah, and I don't think it'll be the last one, so I don't want to be like a naysayer here. Like, I still think that if we get Dragon Quest Heroes 3, for example, I'm sure that would come over. If Builders 3 is announced, that'll come over. I'm fairly confident in that. It's more the giant RPGs that cost a lot of money to do all the translations and stuff. Those ones I'm not so convinced anymore. But that's it. That's all I got. So if you have any other closing comments, by all means, say them, and we'll wrap this bad boy up.
No, I think this was pretty cool to do. So hopefully we can do more of these in the future. Pokemon Sword and Shield is the next game. I think will be very fun to do one in like January or February if we get the chance. But for now, if you enjoyed this, be sure to leave us a comment. And thanks for listening.